Hi guys, have a warm welcome for Derek Charge. Derek is in charge of the Australian and Tasmanian distillery. I should say Australian or Tasmanian. What is like the best
Tasmanian,
word?
yeah, Tasmanian distillery,
Tasmanian.
Hellyers Road. But yeah, we are part of Australia as well.
Yeah, sure, but probably this climate thing, it is all about Tasmania, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So Derek, tell us something about yourself and what is the story behind the distillery itself?
So, look, Hellyers Road Distillery is in one of the most remote parts in the world, certainly very remote from Warsaw, but remote from anywhere. Hellyers Road, so Australia is a very remote continent, right at the south, at the bottom of the world, and then Tasmania is the most a small island that is a remote island off the south of Tasmania, and then we are right up in the northwest corner of Tasmania, even quite remote from the capital, and our origin story comes about as a factor of that remoteness. Our founders actually started a dairy company. So they were milk farmers who started a dairy company way back in 1957. And then they started a very successful milk company. And then in the 1990s, they decided that they would like to diversify and decided to build a whiskey distillery. And this is, yeah.
When you are telling me about the diversity and this is diversity from milk to whiskey, it is kind of.
I mean, once
it's
someone
far one from another, right?
Well, one of the consequences of that is that we also make a whiskey cream, which is a blend of pure Tasmanian cream and single malt whiskey. And this cream won the world's best cream liqueur at the World Spirits Awards in London this year.
And we're going to have a chance to taste it in Warsaw.
I better bring some with me.
You should. Well, in fact, you should then, because
yes.
right now you are telling about it.
So it is. But yes, so this dairy cooperative back in 1997. There were two other distilleries, very small distilleries in Tasmania at the time, but they have moved their operation since. And we have. It's a very collaborative industry. We were the third company to start making whiskey, but our distillery itself is the oldest operating whiskey distillery in Australia. So we started making whiskey. We started the distillery in 1997. And that means that we have an extraordinary bond store of very old whiskies. So we have more than 90% of all the Australian whiskies aged 18 years and older are actually held by us.
And there will be a question regarding this older 18 and older. What I mean is, like, we know as Polish people who are drinking whiskey, thanks to Jarek, we know very much about Kavalan and Amrut, so different distilleries with a different climate that is in Scotland. So the same question would be here to you regarding the climate.
So
the Tasmanian climate is also like kind of hot, right? So
yeah, the climate in Tasmania is quite unique, even within Australia, and where we are in the northwest corner of Tasmania. If you go to the coast on the western side of Tasmania, so not very far from the distillery, and you look westward, it's 20,000 kilometres of untracked, unbroken ocean. The Southern Ocean, it is wild, it is windy, and the nearest landfall is Patagonia. So we're even south of South Africa. It's so as a consequence, it's mind-blowing, and it is really wild. And as a consequence, we have, and this has been measured time and time again, the cleanest air in the world. It's the cleanest air in the world, and also, of course, the cleanest rainwater. But one of the other things about being so far south for the Southern Hemisphere, so our latitude is not a long way compared to Poland, but remember, we don't have the Gulf Stream. So in the Southern Hemisphere, if being at 40 degrees south is quite cold. And because of our maritime climate, we have a very stable temperature. So from winter to summer, maybe varies 10 or 15 degrees. And in winter, the maximum temperature might be 13 degrees. In summer, it might be 25 degrees.
Okay, so in general, yeah, so in general, it is kind of like going in
Very
a smooth line, yeah.
Yeah. So what that means is that, and also one of our philosophies has been to make age-worthy whiskey. So we always use full-size casks. We always use 200-litre or more casks. And so our maturation process, because we don't have big variations in temperature, our maturation process takes a reasonably longer time. But that said, compared to Scotland, our average temperatures are somewhat higher.
So it matures quicker a bit, right?
Yeah, it definitely matures much quicker. So, but not quickly like a Cavalan, for example, where you've got very hot temperatures.
Yeah, at the very beginning, I thought that you're going to say that it is something like the angel share. It is very big. The difference in temperature is kind of very big also. But in general, telling me it is kind of smooth. It is on the same level.
Yeah.
So in general, you are giving like the percent of the angel share is comparable to the Scottish.
It's about 3%. Yeah. But unlike Scotland, our angel share, we do not gain alcohol. So our angel share is very even. So when we tip a cask, it is normally very, very close to the original alcohol content.
Oh yeah, and I already have a question about it regarding that, because thanks to Jarek, we had already some tasting of the Australian whiskey, and we went through what I say a core range, but we also had a 2004 19-year-old single cask. After 19-year-olds, it was 69.9, and it was smooth. It was smooth as hell.
Yeah.
And what I really mind from that tasting is that, first of all, I was really, really confused that the 19-year-old whiskey could have the percentage like this. My question is, what is the percentage level of the new make you are having? It is going up in your case?
So back in 2004, that cask would have been filled at 69.8, 69.9. So straight off the strip.
It haven't lost a point.
It hadn't been diluted, but now we typically fill at 63.5.
Yeah, so the 63.5 is like the average what everyone is using.
And when we tip our casks, they are normally very close to the original fill strength.
Yeah, and I can tell you that I remember that whiskey from the tasting because it was the best one. So I'm a fan, and I was also really liked the 7-year-old the peated version. It was also great. So we already had a question regarding
the 7-year-old. In the 7-year-old peated, did you notice a very slight salt character?
Yeah.
Our bomb stores are very close.
Iodine salt. These are the notes.
Our bomb stores are very close to the sea, so we get that salt just in the maturation.
Okay, you're getting it from the maturation process.
Yeah.
Lovely. And we went through the information regarding the weather and the maturation itself, but there wasn't any question regarding the production level. So how much you produce yearly?
So we are obviously, over the history of the distillery, the production has fluctuated like all distilleries. But at the moment, we are making about how do you want me to? About 1,300 casks or 150,000 liters of pure alcohol.
Okay.
Is that? Yeah.
It's okay. 130 casks, right?
Yeah.
1,300 yearly.
1,300 casks, yeah, or equivalent of about 500,000 bottles.
Okay. And when we are here with the production level, you have your own core range, right? Could you tell us a little bit more about the products that you are doing on a daily basis? What is
Yeah,
something that you can always buy on the shelves?
yeah. So, and we have our core range in Europe is Aurora Australis, named after the southern version of Aurora Borealis, which we can see from our. Actually, they're quite active at night at the moment. The Aurora Australis.
Oh,
Yeah. So, and it's an American oak, and it's been matured in first fill, mainly first fill American oak barrels. Our spirit tends to have a quite tropical character to it.
Okay.
So this is the Aurora Australis has a somewhat tropical character, but over time, and this is the advantage of having such a long and deep bond store, you can see that tropical character change quite dramatically as it ages, as the flavor compounds combine and change. Our other mainstay whiskey that is very, very popular here in Australia and hopefully in Europe is double cask. So for a double cask, we mature in ex-bourbon American oak casks for between 4 and 5 years, and then a secondary maturation in French oak casks. But those French oak casks have been used for Tasmanian Pinot Noir. And Tasmania has, over the last 20 years, gained a reputation as making some truly magnificent Pinot Noir wines. So we have a great relationship with all of the vineyards in Tasmania, and we buy casks for the secondary maturation of our double cask.
And you are already answering my next question. So where are you taking the cask from? So we are getting back. We are going back to that later.
As well as that, we also buy casks from Spain and France, Italy, for interesting finishings, for maturation casks. This whiskey here that I'll bring and show you is matured 10 years in 250 litre Oloroso maturation casks. So we never buy seasoned casks. We only buy maturation casks. And we're very lucky to get, back in 2014, an excellent container of Oloroso casks from Jerez. And that whiskey is fabulous. I really look forward to sharing it with you. It's not yet released in Australia.
You're going to take a tour, so don't you?
Yeah, I'll bring it with me. So yeah.
Oh, lovely. I'll be there then. So in general, we went through this core range, and we already got 2 of those, right? So it was Aurora, and then you are having also the double cask. Anything which is also in your portfolio?
So our core range always includes a 7 or 8 year old peated whiskey. Now all of our barley is grown in Tasmania and malted in Tasmania only 25 minutes down the road, except our peated barley. So we buy our peated malt from Inverness, from Scotland, because there is nowhere in Tasmania with a kiln to roast malt with peat. But we have our peated, and that's not a heavy peat style. It's a lightly peated style. Then our core range also includes the Journeyman, which is a marriage of a 12-year-old American oak and a 5 or 6-year-old Australian port cask, and then our Voyager cask, which is a 19-year-old whiskey that was matured for 16 years in American oak. Then 3.5 years, 4 years in a French oak cask that had been previously used for a liqueur, and then was used for a ruby Pinot port, and then we used it.
Okay, so quite a road.
Yeah. Hence the name Voyager. Yeah. So
that's
and
why
we always have single cask releases of 20, 21-year-old Some of them very heavily peated, some of them very high alcohol. Just depends on the time.
Yeah. I got the point with the alcohol. I really
Yeah.
like this. I really like this one. It will hit the Polish market very well because we like that
Yeah.
higher ABV rather than. And you said that you're going local with many things, right? So first of all, you are growing your own barley, let's say. So the barley is local summer from Tasmania,
Yes.
not to mention the peated one, which is coming from Scotland. But in general, you are also having your own bottling plant. You are bottling on your own, everything.
We have our own bottling team and bottling plant. Yes. All of so the barley is grown in Tasmania. It's malted in Tasmania. We mash, ferment, distill. Everything is done on this site. I don't know if you can see out the window. It's a bit misty and cold out there at the moment because it is the end of winter. But we're actually in the middle of beautiful rolling hills. Sorry about that. In Tasmania. So everything is done locally on this site. And yes, so our bottling is done here. We've had a very long-term relationship exporting into Europe. And obviously have a very strong following here in Australia.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit more about that cask. So where you are buying the casks from in general? What are your favorite type of casks that you are using?
Yeah.
Do you have any?
Our American oak are typically the ex-bourbon cask. We typically import it direct from Kentucky, and mostly we get Heaven Hill.
Mm-hmm.
But we also we do like to experiment with certainly with good quality sherry casks. Also with Australian port. So we have a series of casks that were used as maturation casks for 70 years, not for a Solera, just for a single port that was used for 70 years. And they give off an amazing brown sugar character to the whiskey. But I guess that we were also the first, as I said, we were also the first in Australia to use Tasmanian Pinot Noir casks as part of our maturation program. So that for us, it's something of a signature, and it conveys a really nice spine and beautiful colour to the whiskey and a good backbone.
So the question is regarding this Pinot Noir casks. Are they building it there in Australia? The cask itself?
No, they're French. They're so they cost the vineyards an awful lot more than they charge us for them.
I can imagine.
They're from the normal. Yeah, they're from all of the forests you would expect, like Nevers, Tronquay. So we as I said, we have a great relationship with the Tasmanian vignerons, and they're very happy to supply us with their used casks.
Lovely. I really like the idea of exchanging with the local guys, right? This is probably the best option, rather better than importing everything. But in general, when we are talking about the import itself, it is not easy to import, export, right? Being there.
That's right. I mean, Tasmania has some beautiful timbers. There's some beautiful cabinet making timbers, but you'd never use them for maturing whiskey because they have very strong aromas and strong scents.
So we are going everything. And regarding regarding the sales of your whiskey, so regarding the export itself, is it easy to go to Europe? Is it easy to go to the US? How long does it take for you to produce? And after the production level, you are having the products on the pallet. How long does it take for you to ship the product within Europe?
It can take 8 to 12 weeks to get to
Europe.
That bad.
Actually, I can tell you that it is not that bad because sometimes I feel the process of taking the whiskey from Scotland to Poland is the same in length.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah, sometimes it is. Yeah.
We would normally send a container or a part container, so more than just 1 or 2 pallets. We we export to China and Japan and Taiwan in smaller quantities than Europe. We actually have a whiskey at the moment in the US that we collaborated with the US is a difficult market for us, but just because we're a small distillery and it's so complicated with the different distributors in every state. But we did collaborate with an independent bottler there, and they currently have released our what's called a Rare Hair Tempest. So their label is Rare Hair, and they're selling that for $999 US a bottle.
Quite of a price, right?
It is a 20-year-old Tasmanian whiskey. You're not going to get that from anyone else. So,
yeah, that's true. And we were discussing the import in general and the sales in general.
Yeah.
So what is your biggest market in Europe or in whole the world? What is the biggest market which is taking your products?
Europe is our biggest export market. I mean, Australia is our biggest market, but Europe is our biggest export market. And within Europe, it's France, Germany. Poland's actually not a bad market, as I have learned from talking to our distributor. Yeah, so and in fact we have quite a few followers in Eastern Europe. In fact, before I come to Warsaw, I'm going to do a couple of master classes in Vilnius as well. So.
Oh, really? Right. So
yeah.
Also, we are going on the east side.
But that's a smaller market for us. But we're very keen to support people who really want to try whiskey from the other side of the world. Yeah, we're very, very proud that people want to try our whiskey.
Lovely. I thought that you were going to say Germany or France market.
Yeah, France and Germany are the biggest two markets for us. But Eastern Europe is important for us as well. So.
But in general, La Maison de Whiskey is helping a lot, like to export everything around Europe. So they are also the part of the ecosystem.
Yes.
So how often do you really do the special releases for the European market? Do you do it? How often do you do it?
Yeah, absolutely. We would do it depends on how many La Maison de Whiskey want, but we will send as many as you want. But we also do so the Aurora Australis is a special release for the European market. It's not available here in Australia. But single casks, I think this year we did maybe over the last 12 months we have done at least 6, maybe 7 single casks with La Maison.
Nice.
And I have a couple but I probably can't talk about them
because
that are coming up. So.
Okay, so fingers crossed. I won't ask any more questions about it. And do you have any private cask programs in general as a distillery?
In Australia, we do. So we work very closely with some very premium hotels and golf courses who we co-brand with them. So we sell it as Hellyers Road, and in some of the best hotels in Tasmania and Australia, they will have our whiskey in room and in the bar, and also similar with golf courses, but not and look, we're always willing to talk to people about that, but because we do full large casks, it needs to be generally a fairly substantial business who's interested in buying 200 bottles or 250 bottles of 20-year-old whiskey.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. So you need to have a little bit of money in the pocket to buy those.
Yeah.
Lovely. Derek, I really love spending time with you. I won't take much more from it. It was really a pleasure to have that conversation with you, and thank you for your time. Looking forward to seeing you in Warsaw. Hopefully you're going to have one shot with one another.
Yeah, I am very excited about visiting Warsaw. It'll be my first time in Poland, and I can't wait to get there. So I really look forward to meeting you in person, Simon.
Lovely. So see you on the Whiskey Life Warsaw, and guys, it was Hellyers Road Distillery, and see you soon. Thank you, Derek, very much.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.